Hey everyone, just waiting for Kristen to get on. Hey Dr. Freeze Eva, haven't seen you for a little bit. We're gonna have a great tasting tonight. As you guys probably know, I have Kristin Bryden, our head winemaker, joining me here soon. Love some Zaca Mesa. Hello from Atlanta. Hello, Atlanta. All right. I think she is getting on right now. There she is. There she is. Hey,
It worked.
it worked.
It worked.
It's a miracle.
Is everything okay?
Yeah, no, you're good. You're connected. As long as our internet holds up, I think we'll be all right.
All right.
How's it going?
Good. Long time no
No
see.
see. All right, just wait a minute. Let some people get on here.
All right.
Started. You got your wines?
Would you have any doubts?
I got my two. Got one in each glass. All right. I think I saw Randy on there.
Uh-oh. I better not get any tough questions from Randy.
He wants to make sure his interview is better than yours. All right, guys. Well, we'll get started. Once again, my name is Garrett, brand ambassador, tasting room manager, sommelier at Zaca Mesa Winery. For another of our edition of Zaca Mesa at Home, I am joined by our head winemaker today, Kristin Bryden. Say hello, Kristen.
Hello.
Just real quick, schedule update. This Wednesday, I'll be doing our Grenache Blanc, and Saturday, we'll be doing our winery tour at our production facility. That will be at 3 o'clock instead of our normal 5 o'clock. So 3 o'clock next Saturday at the winery, a little peek into our production facility. And this Wednesday at our normal time at 5 o'clock, I'll be doing our Grenache Blanc. And if you guys have any questions as we go through the tasting tonight, feel free to plug them in, and I'll get to them as we go through the tasting. I do not have my lovely assistant and wife helping me tonight. She is helping me in another way by distracting our two children, so they're not screaming in the background. But I got my laptop here, so if you guys have any questions, just put them in as we go through. If you guys have the 2016 Inceptive or 2015 Mesa, feel free to pour a glass, open a bottle. If you don't have either of these wines, just open something and join with us. And without further ado, we'll get started. Kristen, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you start in wine, and how did you make your way over to Zaca Mesa?
Yeah, so I won't say when I graduated from college, but after I graduated from college, my first job was at Wild Horse Winery in vineyards in Templeton, California. I had no plans to go into the wine industry. I graduated from Cal Poly with a food science degree. I was really just looking for a job so I could stay in San Luis Obispo and pay rent. So my first job was during harvest. I was promised a lot of hours and a lot of hard work, and definitely that's what it was. But I fell into an industry that I didn't even know really existed as far as anything about it. It's a little embarrassing, but I didn't drink wine when I started. I didn't really know the difference between Pinot Noir and Cabernet. So it was a lot of new experiences, but great ones. And at the time, I didn't know how fortunate I was to work at Wild Horse. When Ken Volk owned it, it was, such a great place. A lot of, my closest friends today I met there, were my coworkers at the time, and still great friends today. So it was just a unique opportunity, a great culture, and a great experience with a lot of different grape varieties, which is, what Wild Horse was always known for. So.
Awesome. Yeah, we have that kind of in common of, not really drinking wine before starting in the industry. I wasn't a wine drinker. Didn't know anything about wine. Same thing. I couldn't tell you a difference between a Pinot and Cab, and after getting started, the wine bug gets you and kind of takes over.
Definitely.
It's kind of the way it is in the wine industry. I had a question. What wines are you guys drinking? So we have the 2016 Inceptive and the 2015 Mesa Reserve Syrah. So if you do have either one of those, feel free. If you don't, or if you have a different vintage of the Mesa, open it up. So what you started at Zaca Mesa in 2011 as our assistant winemaker.
Yeah.
What was kind of your beginning at Zaca Mesa, and your first kind of thoughts, and switching from Wild Horse moving into a Rhone program?
Yeah, so I actually was at a winery before Zaca, after Wild Horse, in southern Monterey County. So it was about 40 minutes north of Paso. So I was on an estate vineyard called Lockwood Vineyard there. It was about 1,650 acres of grapes, and it was all estate. So that was kind of my first experience with an estate program. And actually, after having that experience is really the draw of coming to Zaca Mesa, because of their estate program. I'd worked with some Rhones, not a lot. More my background was with Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. So the opportunity to work with Syrah, which obviously is what Zaca Mesa is known for, was really a draw. And then meeting the team during my interview, learning that a lot of the crew, the team, vineyard team, production team, the least seasoned person was probably been there 15 years. So a little intimidating coming into that. But yeah, definitely a draw with the estate vineyard and the emphasis on Syrah as well.
Yeah, it's pretty rare to, come somewhere and have a crew that, together have over 100 years of, close to 100 years, not over 100 years of experience. It's pretty wild. You don't come across a lot of, wineries with that kind of, lineage of, staff staying around that long.
Yeah.
So what's your favorite part of winemaking? What do you love? What do you love about winemaking?
Gosh, that's tough. It depends on the time of year, but
I think I know what your least favorite thing is.
I love harvest, of course. No, I think the part of the vision part of it, like really selecting a site, understanding the site, what the end product, what the wine style, the best way to interpret that site, and really having that vision going into, throughout the growing season and into the vineyard, harvest decisions, picking decisions, and then throughout the whole process, like trying to, I guess you could say, guide the wine into a direction that you have a vision for. You definitely don't get it right, but you always have another vintage to try again. So, but yeah, I think there's just so many unexpected turns. You never, have everything figured out. That's really the best part.
So it's almost like every year is, almost new. There's no two years that are probably, exactly the same. It's always adapting and
Definitely.
rolling with what's happening in that season.
Mm-hmm.
Great examples are some of our most recent vintages of our heat and drought, and having some of the earliest harvests and record and earliest bud breaks, and adapting to those situations. If you had to kind of summarize your winemaking style, how would you kind of summarize that?
I'm fairly hands off. I'm not set in my ways as far as how I think something should be done. I'm always open to learning new things. You learn from your colleagues and people that have mentored you. I think just being open is important, and learning and being humble about things. You never know. It changes all the time with every influence. So I think just being open to learning all the time, really, and admitting when you got it wrong. So
yeah, staying humble. That's I think always important. Something that I've noticed and appreciated from your wines is the kind of a little more finesse and complexity. Very drinkable, approachable. Especially 16, 17 vintages so far are just very lush and fruit forward, and really just nicely put together and structured wines that have that early drinkability, but can definitely also do really nicely with some bottle aging, which has been really nice. Starting with 2016, going forward with kind of your footprint on the wine style.
Well, we were blessed with some great vintages, so can't take credit for that.
It's probably hard to make good wine out of bad grapes. So obviously, everything starts out on the vineyard.
Yeah. I think that's the best part about having a big estate program is just that connection, the time that you can spend on your own estate, and really learning and understanding the blocks year after year, even in different seasons and things, and really kind of honing in on what you're looking for and how to adjust, under different weather conditions and things.
So tell me a little bit about the homage collection. From my understanding that was kind of a lot of that was when you were assistant winemaker was kind of your doing, and your little side project. Well, not little, but your side project, something you wanted to do, and bring some of those varietals that we hadn't done at Zaca Mesa for some time.
Yeah, so that started, Eric, my predecessor, we were asked if if there was anything else besides Rhones from our own estate, any other wines that we wanted to make. So of course, that was, well, yes, of course, any opportunity to source fruit from different vineyards in Santa Barbara County was hands down, yeah, we want to do it. So we selected some varieties that we grew on the property in the past, but because of our site, they actually weren't very well suited for that area. So eventually they got replanted to the Rhone grapes. But so that's how the homage collection started, was just our love for all wines in general, and just wanting to source from different vineyards. So.
And what goes into picking those vineyards? The decisions of what site that is it you have a kind of a top list of wineries you really want to work with, or vineyard sites, and you kind of go down that, or is it just chance?
Yeah, I think you find inspiration obviously from other wines that you drink, from other wineries, other colleagues, so you're always inspired by their wines. And so whenever you taste something and you recognize the vineyard site, it's well, I want to make that too, because it's delicious. Mm-hmm. So definitely. And then of course, if there's vineyards you've worked with in the past, you know, you already have that connection, and you understand the beauty of what's coming off that property. And so that, you know, you can go in that direction. And then obviously, you know, different, you know, decisions go into different vineyard sites. It could be a newer vineyard, but with a lot of opportunity and potential. So
is there any, you know, of the Homage Collection wines and vineyards that we've sourced from so far, one that really just stands out to you as, you know, just being of just really superb quality? They're all fantastic, obviously.
Yeah, I've always had a special place in my heart for Pinot Noir. So Bien Nacido Pinot is definitely always been my favorite.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that one. You know, you could not just our Bien Nacido Pinot, but just the fruit that you get from Bien Nacido at other vineyard sites or other producers have always just been, you know, you see Bien Nacido on the label, you're pretty much guaranteed to get a pretty solid bottle of Pinot Noir.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you know, during your journey in winemaking, you know, is there any influences, outside influences, you know, somebody maybe that really kind of helped mentor you and, you know, get you started, or, you know, kind of built that passion for wine?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot, obviously, but I think, you know, earlier in my career, Larry Gomez, he was one of the winemakers, production managers at Wild Horse when I started. And then later on, I went to work for him at Lockwood Vineyard. So he definitely had the biggest influence in winemaking for me. Really took the time to teach me about viticulture, and really helped me gain a lot of confidence in my own capabilities and my palate. So he would still a great friend today. You know, he's, you know, one of the people that you pick up the phone when you have, you know, that emergency moment of not knowing what to do. You know, it's always good to have a list of people that you can contact that have more experience of what they do, and have, you know, a lot of things to share with you. So, and then also definitely Eric Masseni, you know, my predecessor. When I got to Zaca, you know, it was coming into a team of people that have been there 15 to 35 years. So it's, you know, just trying to fit in. And, you know, he really shared a lot about Zaca. He'd been there probably 10 years before I got there. So, you know, he shared a lot about the culture, the history, the wines, and to really have that opportunity to learn about the different choices that have, you know, with planting and wine style objectives. To have someone take that time and to learn under is, you can't beat that. So those are definitely the most impactful, I think, in my career. So
yeah, having those people it's definitely priceless.
yeah.
We got a couple questions that have come in. What's the oldest Zaca Mesa wine you've drunk or drank? I'm not sure how that's supposed to go. And what did you think? The oldest Zaca Mesa wine, and what did you think of it?
It was at probably a holiday Christmas party, so I don't know how much I remember.
Are you speaking of the last one that we did?
No, probably before that. It probably would have been a 76, 77 Cabernet Sauvignon. That was one of the first varietals planted at Zaca. And it was actually really solid. You know, I think we were all kind of wondering, and but yeah, it was actually really good. Yeah.
So I think the last Christmas party, there was some red blend, and maybe it was like 70, so in the 70s, somewhere, yeah. 78 or something, and it was like Cab and I think Petit Syrah, and it even had like, I think a little Pinot or something. You know, it was a really just this random, you know, blend, but it, you know, it still was. I mean, it was a very solid, drinkable wine. Yeah, no, they held up really well. Yeah. And kind of on that, you know, being our first wine, another question: did you guys work with Ken Brown when he was at Zaca? Obviously, he's a little before our time.
Yeah, I know. I never did, but I've met him. He's a great guy, and it's actually really fun to, ask him questions about Zaca and kind of, when he was there and all the things that they were doing at the time.
Mackenzie just chimed in and she said, "All the Christmas parties miss you guys."
Who said that?
Mackenzie.
Oh, hi, Mackenzie.
Another question. Can you speak a little bit about the science of winemaking? I guess just some of the biological factors when it comes to.
Yeah, I mean, as far as some of the influences, I mean, obviously viticulture, soil science, the weather, obviously all those are the most impactful when it comes to producing, the grapes. And then just the science behind fermentation, aging, the influence of oxygen, how tannin profiles change over time, and I mean, gosh, I could, there's a lot. But I mean, I think it's finding that balance, it's not just looking at the chemistry and the numbers, but paying attention, what does it taste like? Do you like it? What, it's not always about the numbers. It's a feeling, it's a gut instinct sometimes, when you make decisions. And it's, experimentation. Sometimes you get it right, sometimes you don't.
Yeah. I think, I like to summarize, winemaking as a balance of science and like artistry. It's the own, winemakers, decisions that influence the wine, but as well as there's the science, and biological factors that there's things you have to do to get a certain result, but there's also the, individuality that comes out in wine. And, perfect example is taking grapes from one vineyard and having 3 different winemakers make the same wine from the same grapes and how they all 3 turn out differently. Is a great example of that. Sorry, I was just looking at the questions on here.
Only the easy ones.
Yeah, I'm filtering them. What's your favorite grape varietal? I think you kind of mentioned, you really like Pinot, and why is it your favorite, and why do you like working with it? If maybe it's not something we work with, but
yeah, no, I mean, I think 10 years ago there would have been no question, Pinot Noir hands down. But now, actually, just after working with Syrah for so many years, it's really one of my favorite varietals to work with. Just the power and the elegance, it can be both at the same time, powerful and elegant. And it's actually, you can do a lot of different things with Syrah. You can experiment a lot with different oak regimes, vessels, and still end up with a great wine. And so it gives you a little bit of freedom to try different things. Fortunately, we have 9 different clones on the property, different vine age, different rootstocks. So you really get to see a lot of different profiles, even from one vineyard site, which is really unique. So,
yeah, absolutely. Any varietals this year, or anything that's either on vineyard or off vineyard that you're excited about so far this year? Any certain wines? Might be a little early, too early to tell at this point, but
well, I'm always excited, no matter what time of year, thinking about the next harvest. I always get excited about rosé. I think it's one of the more challenging wines to make, at least for myself. And so I'm always anxious to see what happens after bloom and set, and what the yields looking like on Grenache, and kind of trying to figure out which block selections and kind of where I see things going. But that's always something I look forward to every year.
And so do we. The staff is always happy when you pull samples out of tank in those days. Segueing into what we're drinking right now, can you talk about the Mesa Reserve Syrah and the specific blocks that it comes from?
Yeah, so this is the 2015 Mesa. So, gosh, this was really early bud break. We had a really warm January, February. So things kind of kick-started off early. And then in May, we actually had a lot of cold, windy temperatures, so a really poor set. So very small crop. And then the weather heated up, and it was I think still to date, it's the earliest harvest we have on record for Syrah too. So definitely a very concentrated, powerful wine because of the low yields. Yeah, it comes from 3 different blocks, Mesa B, Mesa C, and Chapel G. I don't remember the specific clones in it, but it's about 35% new oak. So just enough to support the wine, but really let the wine show. I love this wine because it has a more rustic nose to it. And I really like that in Syrah when it's not just powered by fruit, but it has the balance. It's actually one of my favorites in the past 10 years, 10 vintages, I think.
This particular vintage?
Mm-hmm. This Mesa Reserve, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Mesa's always been, a little more savory, a little, to me, like a little bit more like old world Syrah. It's got more of that kind of meatiness and, dried violet and leather, it's a little more, like I said, rustic. And, maybe not as like fruit driven as Chapel or, it's just got that, very, very structured, very, dry, great wine. And definitely more like black fruit, the red fruit's not as dominant like with, again, Chapel. Tasting good now, five years and still a big wine.
Yeah.
Right. This is going to age nice. Oh, look, we got Miss Kelsey Treppa.
Oh, okay.
Hello, Kelsey. What varietals are in the concrete tanks this year, and what wines will they go into?
So that was a great transition into the next wine.
I know.
Kelsey.
It's almost like she knows what wines we're drinking.
Actually, since we're going to talk about vessels, the 2016 Inceptive, this is the first vintage of this wine. And the reason this came about was because of Eric, the prior winemaker. He really wanted to experiment with new vessels, so concrete and amphora. And so in 2016, we brought in some concrete tanks from Italy that year. And that first year, we still didn't know what we wanted to age in them. So we did one with Syrah and one with a blend of Grenache and Mourvedre. And we really weren't sure, what was going to happen, if we were going to like the wines or not. And as we tasted the wines every month, every couple months, we just really saw such a beautiful progression in the wines and really wanted to capture that. And so that's when we started bottling the Inceptive, which is always going to be a blend of concrete and neutral barrel. So this is 50% concrete, 50% neutral barrel, and it's 65% Syrah, and then almost 50-50 of Mourvedre and Grenache. And this year we have the same varietals aging.
Love the Inceptive. It's been, one of my favorite wines since it's been released. The concrete aging has a beautiful effect on the wine. Can you go into a little bit more about the different vessels and kind of the reasoning for using concrete on those certain varietals and what they do to it comparatively to the clay vessels, just kind of the effects of each one?
Yeah, I mean, we're obviously this is a young program for us. It's a vessel that's been obviously used for a long time in winemaking, but new to us, so we're still learning. But as far as why we choose to put Syrah in is we have very powerful Syrah, very structured, a lot of tannin. And what we found with aging in concrete is we get the wine tends to soften a little bit quicker and kind of just polishes the edges a little bit. And so kind of what we've started doing is aging in concrete for 10 months with Syrah and then barreling it down to neutral oak for the remainder of the aging. And then that way we can fill it again for the next harvest as well. But that's a good amount of time, what we found for the Syrah, just to really kind of to soften it up. And I think when you taste this wine, you can kind of see how approachable the wine is in that sense. Grenache is also, we use that in concrete. And it just really just, the freshness, the vibrancy of the wine is so noticeable when you're tasting the barrel versus the concrete. And then we do have a couple amphoras, which are some of my favorites. They tend to, kind of showcase some more of the earthy notes. I don't know if, it has to do a little bit with the reduction but again, just a real nice polishing profile on especially Syrahs. So, but those are the only varietals that we've used on these vessels, or in these vessels.
Yeah, fairly new, 2016 first vintage, and the Recusant program was another bottling that we did that had the same juice from the same vintage, aged in 3 different vessels, one concrete, one clay, one neutral oak, and really showcases the difference of each one of those vessels. Such a cool bottling, and we also did a couple events surrounding our different vessels, and those were really fascinating and fun to get into. Another question. Hey Gary, good to see you on here. Gary Johnson's been watching these live tasting just about every one, I think.
Nice.
Would the softening noted with the concrete aging be due to low level CO2 release from the concrete?
I'm not sure. A lot of the tanks don't settle very well. The solids tend to stay in suspension in these particular shaped tanks that we have. And I don't know if the part of the solids, staying in suspension longer kind of helps soften as well. There is a little bit of, micro-oxygenation happening, but we're not exactly sure. We just kind of go by what we're experiencing and, what we see consistently from, different vintages and stuff.
Taste it as it's aging, and then
just go with it.
Go with it. And if Terry's on here watching, thank you so much for that lovely card you sent. That was very nice, and I'm very glad that you have been enjoying these live tastings. Is there a price difference between the barrel versus concrete? Price difference in cost of concrete or
yeah, I mean the lifespan on the concrete tank is significantly longer than the oak barrel, so yes, the accountants like the concrete better.
That's why we added a couple more to make the accountant happy.
That's right.
I have a question for you relating to the 8-barrel Syrah. My favorite Syrah at Zaca Mesa, as you probably know.
Yeah.
What goes into the decision making of what cooperages or barrels that are selected for that program?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a funny wine because I think it evolves a little bit every time there's a new winemaker that takes over the program. Yeah. It's kind of turns into what their interpretation of it is. We've always experimented with different oak cooperage houses, and so it's kind of evolved into that. We're looking at different barrels and the impact they have on the wine, and kind of showcasing that and kind of the harmony that's created, with the wine and the barrel, and just allowing that to be a little more expressed in the bottle. I think some of our other wines we've tended to back off with the oak a little bit over the years, and so we're not shy with that one, and letting the barrel really shine.
Yeah, I love 8-barrel, and I think one of the reasons why I like it so much is from year to year it changes quite a bit on its style, but it's always it's definitely a fan favorite people really enjoy 8 barrel. It's a combination of big savory red fruit and the spice and the tannin structure. It's a great wine. It ages very well. Mm-hmm. Rebecca says it used to be bigger and bolder.
Yeah, I mean, we probably soften the edges a little bit. But, and it has a little to do with vine age as well, kind of the fruit that's coming off the vineyard. Depending on how old the vines are, they can be a little more rambunctious, the grapes, the flavor profiles and tannins when they're younger. So just with the grapes, the vines getting older, the grape profile changes just a little bit with time.
Yeah, maybe you can solve a little a mystery with 8-barrel. The 8-barrel story there's very many roots to it. So the most recent one I heard, I think, was from Marlisa, about Daniel Gares left the tank to kind of slowly leak off overnight into the barrels or the rack or whatever.
Yeah.
And then that was used for the 8-barrel program originally. Is that?
Yeah, that's a version of the story I've heard. Okay. I mean, that's it. That sounds right. Yeah, they drained the tank, the Syrah tank, drained all the juice, the wine off. And then overnight, the grape skins that were left in the tank, they let it drain off that overnight. So it's a more concentrated portion. And I think that's how it started, but
that must have been a really big wine. If that's if all that juice is going just into that wine, that must have been.
Well, it was probably a bigger tank. I don't really know the story, the actual historical reasoning behind that wine, but like I said, it's kind of evolved over the years.
Yeah.
And the story's evolved too, I'm sure.
Yeah. If you probably started out with that 8-barrel comparatively to now, it's probably a completely different wine. Another question. Are there Syrah blocks which are more windy or have less good quality of soil where the vines struggle more? And how do you think about blending these with other parts of the estate?
Yeah, absolutely. Most of our vineyard is on elevated mesa tops, but we do have a hillside block of Syrah. So the topsoil is definitely a lot leaner. Those vines were planted in '99, and so the berries are definitely smaller. They struggle a little bit more, very concentrated, flavorful. The grapes from that usually go into Mesa Reserve, just because of the concentration and texture. So yeah, absolutely. Vine age, soil nutrients, things like that, all that factors in to the quality and the concentration.
Can you touch a little bit on Black Bear? Black Bear, our most renowned block. Working with that block and with its age and its I'm sure it could be a little tricky. Working
it's a little intimidating. I mean, yeah. I think it's the one block that you can't mess up. Making sure you get the pick right. It's such an iconic part to our history. And you definitely don't want to be the one that screws up a vintage of it. So it's a little more time spent walking that block and tasting and making sure you get it right. But yeah, it's pretty spectacular to be able to work with fruit, vines that are that old, over 40 years old. So yeah, intimidating though.
Yeah. Just that block is so crazy. The spacing and everything. It's so cool.
Yeah.
The vines are so from the trunk to the vines are so crazy looking. Well, any other questions, you guys? Please put them in. I'm waiting for Randy. Randy hasn't asked a question yet. I was hoping he would hit you with the fun one, but maybe he's saving it for the end. So anything in the future program wise that you're looking forward to, that you're excited about working with? Anything new, any new varietals possibly that you've been thinking about wanting to either bring in or plant? Or
Yeah, we have a couple new wines that will get released this year. One of them's going to get bottled in another month. So yeah, there's some new things coming out. Working with some new vineyards, so some good things happening for sure. Always experimenting, so that's good.
That's good. Always expanding. Which of the Syrahs have more of a black pepper characters, probably spicy characteristics, and is that because of the site or the clone, or both?
Well, I mean, I think site definitely would influence. Cooler sites, you tend to have more peppery notes. So for us, we have a fair amount of fruit. We're kind of a mixed climate, a little warm region. But so cooler vintages for us, you'll pick up some of those notes, like the 2011 vintage is a good example of, you might pick up some more of those cooler, some more of the wild sage that's kind of signature for our vintage and cooler seasons. So, but yeah, the site, depending on where your site is, has, I think, the most impact on that pepper.
And speaking of which, anyone seen black bears lately? I haven't seen one lately. Have you?
No, just I think the last time was the night vision camera.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Parking lot. Yeah, so it hasn't been too long.
Yeah, a couple years maybe.
Which vintage, since you've been in Zaca Mesa, has been either your favorite, whether it was just that season and harvest, or just how the wine turned out? If you had to pick one that was just a special vintage or year for you.
That's tough. I mean, there's different parts about each one.
It's like picking your favorite kid.
Exactly. 2016, the wines, there's a finesse to the wines that I really appreciate.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, I feel like she's gonna say 26.
Am I not predictable?
Well, that was. I mean, you probably heard me say it before. I say it all the time that since I've been at Zaca Mesa, 2016 has been my favorite. Just overall, across all the wines, favorite vintage. Just the consistency with every wine. You have certain years where certain wines are like really, really good, and other wines are good. They're just not as high as those ones, but across the board, 16 have just been so solid.
Yeah. Whoever worked the 16 harvest will say it was because of them.
Well, of course. I mean,
absolutely.
Why else? This is a good question. Are you seeing more wildlife without the human traffic?
Actually, yes. I maybe didn't send you the picture, but there was a bobcat at the winery a couple weeks ago.
Oh, was there?
Yeah. So yes.
How close did it get?
I got close enough you could tell what it is on my cell phone, so not too far away, maybe like 100 feet.
Yeah, they're probably curious why there hasn't been any people there for a while when
yeah.
Come and check it out. Also, we've had nests in our our portable heaters outside. We've had a couple nests there, which normally wouldn't be there. But other than that, it hasn't been too bad. There's still bodies, at staff-wise with production.
Yeah.
Like I was there today. Austin and I was there today to do pickup. So we have to go there just to make sure the animals know that we're still there, so they don't take over.
That's right.
Take over the property from us. When is Zaca Lake opening to the semi-public? We do not own Zaca Lake. That's a separate property that is across from our property. So I don't have the answer for that one. I don't think, has Zaca Lake ever been a part of the Zaca Mesa property? That's just the Zaca Lake. So Zaca is a Chumash. It's a Native American word. So you have Zaca Station Road and Zaca Lake and Zaca Mesa. So it's a, just an influence in San Ynez Valley. So if it's Zaca, it doesn't necessarily mean that it belongs to us. But we do have a little semi-lake on our property. It's more of a well water supply, but more of a pond, a large pond, probably. All right. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in. Unless there's anything else that any other questions people have, we have, again, just remind everyone, Wednesday I'll be doing our Grenache Blanc, and then Saturday I'll be going through the winery for a little winery tour, and that'll be at 3 o'clock on Saturday. You can watch this fascinating interview again on our YouTube page. The link is on our Instagram, so if you missed it, if you came in late, you can watch it there. You can also watch it on Instagram on IGTV. After the video finishes, it'll be posted on there. So you have a couple ways of watching it. Almost forgot the best part of this, the promo. So because Kristn selected these two fantastic wines, if you would like to purchase these wines, if you buy 6 or more bottles, not only do you get 15% off and 30% off if you are a club member, but you get $5 shipping with a complimentary cool pack. So since it's getting hot, you get a free cool pack. Those are $12 usually. So comp cool pack with 6-bottle order. You can mix and match. You can do all the same, however you want to do it. 15% off and then 30% off for our club members. One more question. The next Cinso. Is there going to be a single varietal Cinso? We've talked about this a little bit.
I know. Well, I've got 2019 in barrel that's tasting pretty delicious.
Yeah,
Maybe. Stay tuned.
Yeah. And then, are these your favorite wines? The Inceptive and Mesa.
Yeah, I mean, Inceptive definitely, because this is a new program, something I was part of developing. Mesa's always one of my favorites. Just a hands down, yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah, we kind of selected these wines because these are a couple of Kristin's favorite wines right now. Inceptive, being a brand new program and working with the concrete, something new, and Mesa, like Kristin just said, one of her favorite wines. Randy chimed in.
Uh-oh.
I will hand bottle that Cinso if I need to. He's put it on there, so you can hold him to it.
It's done.
Hand bottled by. Will you sign it too, Randy? Will you sign each bottle? Maybe if you sign each bottle, Kristn will do it. All right, guys. Thanks everyone for watching. I will see you guys on Wednesday. We are doing pickups by appointment at the winery. Just email me, Garrett at Zaca Mesa, GARRETT at zacamesa.com to set up a pickup between 10 and 3 o'clock. We still have our 3 or more bottles, $5 shipping, and with our promo tonight, 6 or more bottles, 15% off at 30% off for club, $5 shipping plus a complimentary cool pack to keep that wine nice and chilled in this hot weather. Obviously, if you're shipping somewhere where it's not hot, then you don't need that. But a lot of places around here are hot, so you're gonna need it. Thank you, Kristn. It was. I'm glad I finally got to have you get on here and chat with you for a little bit. The people have been asking, so I hope they are satisfied.
All right. Thank you, Garrett.
Thanks, Kristn. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks.
Bye. Thank you.